All right, there we are. Hopefully everything is looking and sounding good.
All right.
I'm hearing myself.
I muted it. I muted it.
Okay.
I wasn't prepared for that. I saw someone say earlier, like, "Oh, I'm going to have to go away," but they'll call us back by saying, "Well, all right, there we are."
Yep, that's how we always start these streams. Hopefully everything sounds and looks good. We have the distinct honor to be joined by Audi Sorlie and Mr. Randy Linden, the developer and the producer. Like, Audi, you were a producer on this, correct?
I'm actually a project manager, and
Okay.
I guess kind of a lot of the concepts.
And producer.
Yeah, producer. Randy and I just tag teamed it as much as we could, but Randy is the star. I mean, Randy's the living legend that he is. So,
Coury, do you need to lower me on
I did.
my end, or do I?
I already did.
Okay.
Should be good now.
Everyone was saying I was quiet, so I turned it like way up. But
the mic is blown out. Hopefully not me, but as it tries.
But does it still sound blown out now that Coury lowered it, or is it like blown out on my end?
Okay, I mean I can bring him.
It says try still peaking.
Still peaking.
Okay,
Sounds good to me.
Okay, I got it. I'll handle it.
Well, maybe I should lower it on the input side.
Okay.
Here, okay. It's at 50
Because it sounds good
now.
to me. So it's got. I wonder if it's just something like the way I'm feeding it.
Guys, you're embarrassing me in front of Randy Linden.
I know. This is how things always work. You know, it can't be a live stream with us if we don't have any technical difficulties.
I've been on your stream quite a few times, and this is actually how every single one starts.
Yes, that's just
apparently
that's what we do.
Actually, it's part of the gig. So
it should be good now. I brought him down.
Is it good?
Yeah.
I mean, I see Arioka say tries too loud, but that might be old information. Are we satisfied with levels now?
I hope so.
Chat, how's the levels?
Great.
Okay.
It's disconcerting watching the chat and also flipping back to the stream because the stream is slightly delayed.
Yeah. Okay. Now it's all good. I mean. Now Randy's a bit loud. Yeah, I mean that's what happens when I bring him down a touch. I'll bring him down to 80. Okay. Hopefully everything's all right. I mean, I can always.
Hopefully that's good.
Yeah, I can always adjust it as we go. But of course,
let's blame Audi for being the quietest one here. That's why we sound too loud.
I try. I really try to speak up. It is late. Don't tease me.
Yeah, or early rather. I guess probably is it after midnight?
Glass half full, glass half empty. It is 2:18 in the morning, and I'm doing this because I love you all this month.
So yeah, I'm going to be playing the. I was struggling to kind of figure out what this is titled, you know, like there's like Doom 2025, but I saw it listed on Limited Run's site as like Definitive Doom SNES. So I feel like that's just kind of what I went with.
I guess I mean the working title, I guess we can say this, Randy, or else some ninjas might chop us down for this, but I think when we worked on it, kind of internally, Randy and I at least kind of said Ultimate Doom.
Yeah, we called it Ultimate Doom because it was basically all the levels, including episode 4 from Ultimate Doom, and so that was the working title. But id and Bethesda preferred it to be called just Doom, just like the PC version was.
Yeah, and I think also because like I kind of get it. This kind of replaces the old version of SNES Doom. So it's just kind of, you know, I don't know, a good comparison here, but it's just kind of like, well, this is Doom. This is Super Nintendo Doom. So it's just Doom.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I mean, you can call it whatever you want, Coury.
Yeah. I mean, it is a remaster, I guess, as GameSack is saying there.
I mean, so now to give people an idea of, who we've got here, Randy Linden is responsible for a lot of things, including, this new version of Doom on Super Nintendo, but also the original Doom on Super Nintendo, which was, kind of the original Impossible port. And you liked working on a lot of kind of difficult things. And on top of that, you're also very well known for the Bleem and Bleemcast emulator, which set the precedent for emulation being legal. So very important. And also, you kind of created maybe the first emulator. You don't even know, at least the first commercially available one, we think.
Right.
The 64 emulator on the Amiga. Wow. Yeah, it was an early one. It was definitely one of the earlier ones that was commercial. This was back in 1980, 1980s.
Yeah,
somewhere around there.
I remember you. Yeah, I remember when you when we talked a couple of years ago. You were saying at the time, you called it the 64 emulator, being a Commodore 64 emulator for the Amiga. But there wasn't really that wasn't really a commonly used term for this kind of software. So it was, we
had to come up with a name for the product.
Mm-hmm.
And we had to sort of describe what the product did. And it emulated the Commodore 64 on the Amiga, and so we just called it the 64 emulator. Because we weren't sure that people see there were millions, tens of millions of people who had Commodore 64s, and then some of those got Commodore 128s, and those are all 6502 based. And then when you moved to the Amiga, which was the next big machine from Commodore, it's 68,000 based, and so you just can't. I mean, never mind the fact that the floppy disks wouldn't fit into the Amiga drives and all of that kind of stuff. So basically, we created a piece of software that nowadays the terminology emulator is commonplace, but back then we had to look it up. It's like, well, what would you call this thing? Well, it emulates it. Okay, that's what we'll go with.
Yeah. I mean, the funny thing is when, NES and Sega Genesis emulators and stuff like that started coming around on Windows operating systems, that was what taught me the word emulate, that was already established. I never heard the word emulate, when I was a kid before that. So, it's just kind of funny to think about it emulates before emulators were.
And also you kind of helped, or you developed, in a way, a way to compress an FMV equivalent down to, on
the Amiga for Dragon's Lair.
Yeah. I mean, that was 1989. So we're talking well before any other FMV. And I Audie's wearing this Another World shirt, and I was reading the thing about how Eric Shahi credited the work that you did that gave him ideas to do the rotoscoping that he did in Another World.
We all stand on the shoulders of giants, so I am thankful and grateful that I had a hand in the products that I did, but also that it gave other people ideas. It sort of spurred them on. One of the most difficult things is to decide that a project is possible.
Mm-hmm.
Once you know that in your mind something is possible, then the pieces, after a lot of hard work, they just sort of come together and they work themselves out. But that's one of the things with Dragon's Lair. I just sort of knew that it was possible, and it was just a matter of making all the right shortcuts and optimizations and tweaks here and there to sort of get all the pieces together.
Mm-hmm.
While I'm the one credited with Dragon's Lair, there was a team of artists and rotoscopers and other people that did a lot, because as you can imagine, there's a lot of manual work. When we did the digitizing, we got a I don't know if most people know this, it was from Sunrise Industries, and it was a digitizer, and it could digitize the red, green, and blue separately without having to use color filters. And the guy's name was Anthony Wood.
Mm-hmm.
And you probably don't know him, but you have heard of his company now called Roku.
Oh.
So the guy who way back then was working on hardware.
Yeah.
And the hardware made Dragon's Lair possible because we were able to. I went in Toronto, went down to an audio-visual store and rented one of those really big, massive laser players by the week, and sat there single-stepping each frame, digitizing it with the Sunrise Industries sampler, and then that all was passed off to artists to clean up because there was NTSC noise. So the pixels were mostly, but not exactly, the same color, and the compression worked by basically large areas of color compressed better. And so if there's a couple of dots here and there, that messes up the compression. So all the frames had to be touched up by hand.
Wow.
Every single frame of Dragon's Lair.
That is.
I remember I got
wild.
that when it came out, like, because I grew up with the Amiga, being from Europe, and I just couldn't believe, like, I told you when I started working with Randy and talking to him, like, I've explained many times, but like as a kid, I could not tell the difference between the Amiga version and the Laserdisc version because I was, I'd only seen the arcade game a few times in my life, but how I remembered it in my mind was exactly what I was seeing on the Amiga.
Oh, that's cool.
And we're using floppy disks. I didn't understand. Like, I remember the first time my friend booted that up, I thought like the Amiga now could use VHS tapes.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I hadn't seen him like insert the floppy or anything, and I was like, oh wow, like this is interesting. And then it unraveled that day. But that's one of my most vivid memories of playing the Amiga as a kid, and so it's kind of bizarre sitting here now, all these years later, talking to the guy who actually made it. But it's actually one of like kind of central gaming memories I have from when I was like 6.
That is really, really cool. I'm going to go ahead and start the game.
We'll just keep talking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. I'm gonna.
I went and grabbed my copy of the prototype here. There was a question in the chat asking about like if it has like the extra pins that like the other like expansion chip hardware games typically have, and was wondering what it doesn't seem to. What's the technical reason behind that?
Sort of see it. Yeah. So the technical reason is we don't need the signals that are on those pins. There's a 21 megahertz master clock. There's some audio, I think left and right audio mixing pins. We just don't need the pins. The earlier Star Fox did, because it used the 21 megahertz clock that was available. Super FX 2 used the same clock, but the Raspberry Pi that we use, it's an RP2350B, and it's self-clocking, which basically means you give this thing power and it just runs automatically at the right clock rate, so we don't have to have a separate clock from the Super Nintendo 21 megahertz clock. So that's why those extra pins on the edges of the connectors aren't there. They're not needed for our cartridge.
Yeah, unlike the Super Game Boy has like audio mixing on its extra pin.
Right, exactly. A couple of those pins, there's I want to say, well, I can
Oh,
take a look.
yeah, I'm
here.
using the Rumble
Looks like
controller because this game has Rumble in it.
Yes.
Sure does.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So it looks like there's 8 pins on a side, and like I said, one of them is 21 megahertz. A couple of them are left and right audio, but we just don't need them. So why put them on there if they're not going to be used?
Yeah.
Joe from GameSack was asking Randy about something about the 512 pixel mode, something about the text. Is it some sort of technical limitation where the text can't be in 512 mode? I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly what.
I'm looking at it here. Does it switch from 512
Yeah, Randy,
pixel
when
mode when the text comes up? Yeah, okay. What I use, the title screens, the score screens, the finale screens, all of the static screens are in what's known as pseudo H512 mode, which means they're technically 256 pixels, but it does a half pixel shift and a blend to give it better looking colors. They're also in 256 color mode, whereas, for example, the OG version from 1995, in order to save space, most of those screens were in 16 color mode. So you have, I want to say, 8 palettes of 16 colors, one of which has to be transparent. But now with all of the memory, it was changed so that things are done in 256 color mode, and they're displayed in, I believe it's called mode 1, which is 256 color with pseudo H512 enabled. I hope that answers the
Well, I mean, you're kind of beholden to the mode, like whatever mode you're using, right? So there are I know there's different how many background layers and how many colors per layer and per sprite and per tile. I don't know the specifics, but I know it varies. For the different Super Nintendo modes.
Well, everybody's heard of mode 7. That's because there's 8 modes. There's mode 0, mode 1, mode 2, ... 5, 6, 7.
So this is mode 1.
Mode 1, I believe, is the 256 color mode. There's a couple of 256 color modes, but one of them has an overlay for background 2. And that's how, on the title page, where you can see it says start the game or enter code, that's a separate screen. And when you pause the game with the start button, the menu that appears over there is overlaid.
Like right here.
So yeah, that's
right.
One of the modes.
Right, and you can kind of see it shift,
appears,
right? Like the background gets lighter, and it takes a second for the text to appear.
Yes, that's because what I'm basically doing, it's really kind of a pain. What I'm doing is I'm freezing the frame, and then because it's double buffered, I'm using the opposite buffer to upload the graphics for the menu. Then I enable the particular layer, and the menu appears, and so that's why there's a few frames of pause between hitting pause and the pause menu actually appearing.
Jake was asking how it's possible to get signals for Rumble from the Super Nintendo, because were there just unused signals or unused pins that could be utilized for that signal?
Yes, sort of. There is a 1 line that goes from the Super Nintendo console out to the controller port. And what I basically do is on that line, I send what I call a sentry. And the sentry is a pattern of 1s and 0s that form the letter R for Rumble. And then I send the actual data for the right Rumble first, then the left Rumble, 4 bits apiece.
Wow.
So that the controller, the little microcontroller chip that's inside the Rumble controller, looks for the sentry And if the sentry is present, it then reads 4 bits of right, 4 bits of left, and activates the motors. This allows the controller to be backwards compatible, so you can use it just as a regular controller. But if a game supports rumble, it just works. It's just like magic. It just sort of
no performance penalty for having to do those extra bits.
No, it happens so quickly that it's gone in a blink, and it's done every vertical blank every 60th of a second. So what I actually do, and you can feel this in Doom, if you fire the shotgun, just fire the shotgun at the empty space there, can you feel it rumble on the right and then 3 little rumbles in the left?
Yeah. It goes bump, 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 bump.
Right. That's the firing of the shotgun, and recoil, ejecting the shell, and then the reload. I can do waveforms that are separate for the left and the right channel, and I then mix up to 4 of these waveforms. So you can be firing a gun and being attacked by different the monsters or the environment, and all of that gets mixed, and you'll feel a difference in the left versus the right.
Well, my understanding is that especially modern HD rumble is, I don't know, maybe it was always this way, but they're essentially sound files on Switch or PS5. It's mostly just a sound file converted into different intensity.
Yes.
Was it always that way?
No, rumble used to be more, there was a low frequency motor and a high frequency motor. And you could get different effects by activating the motors for different lengths of time and different amounts. Like I said, the low frequency motor gave you more of a shaking. The high frequency motor was more of a buzz.
It was kind of more of a just a dumb on off versus
typically it was on off like the N64 Rumble. When Rumble first came out, Rumble, it's sort of like a half semicircle wheel that's on a motor, and so that's why it jiggles, because it's not a perfect wheel. I forget what they call it, but that sort of off balance rumbling is where Rumble started, and so I just thought we should do something that would be straightforward to implement, flexible and compatible, and so that's how the Rumble came about.
And the Rumble in this game is so it's hard because obviously we're such a visual medium between all of us, and so we could show the frame rate comparisons and all that, but the Rumble adds such a huge dimension to this game. I'm sure Coury
for sure.
It, right? You can't really show that, right?
Yeah.
So you have to experience it by holding it, but it is extremely dynamic. It is, almost haptic in that sense.
And it's just neat to play a Super Nintendo game with that effect.
Yeah.
And what I think is cool is that you're essentially open sourcing the ability to make to implement Rumble and to be hacked into other Super Nintendo games that can be used with this controller.
Yes, absolutely.
And also Darth Cloud, the developer of Blue Retro, is making a firmware that will allow you to use Rumble with a Blue Retro receiver, and if you have an 8-bit DOE controller attached to it.
Yes. Yeah, we Josh made a very conscious decision to say, let's open source all of this stuff that we can. Let's give back to the community. And so we started contacting Kando from Star Fox, and Sunlit from Star Fox CD, and Infidelity, who's done a bunch of NES to SNES ports, and said, please keep this quiet, but we're going to be releasing the Rumble controller, and I can give you early access to sample code, documentation, a binary ROM file that activates the rumble, and an early version of the emulator Messen that has the rumble support enabled. Oh, and I'll send you a rumble controller so that you can actually get all of this stuff operational. And they were all like, hell yeah, send it on. And so they turned it around very quickly. Within, oh gosh, I want to say 6 hours, Star Fox CD started to have rumble in it. And it was just, a very, very preliminary. You launched the Nova Bomb, I think is what it is, and the thing rumbled. But it's amazing what they've been able to do. And I think that was the whole point when Josh said, let's make this stuff open source, was let's let people push the technology now that we sort of given them, the instructions and the base on which things can be expanded from.
Right.
Ashura was asking whose idea even was it to do the rumble in the first place?
That was me. I said, I said, wouldn't it be neat? Well, not all of my ideas are great. I said it would be really neat, and I'll show you here. This is a Hyperkin mouse. I said, let's contact Hyperkin and make a rumble mouse. And, yeah, the rumble mouse idea was turned down. But the rumble controller was a definite go, and they said, yeah, that would be really great. And Retrobit really came through and said, yes, we can use our really popular controller as a base. Mm-hmm. And we'll add rumble motors. And I said, I sort of described what I would like to happen, because I'm a software guy, software and firmware. I'm not really on the hardware end of things. And so I said, I'm going to be sending these bits on this particular line, and it's going to go high and low, and this is what it's going to mean. Please make it happen. And they made all of the rumble hardware actually work. We demoed it at QuakeCon last year. I see you just picked up the chain gun. If you fire it out into space, you should be able to feel that it goes left and right.
Oh yeah. It's very, very subtle, but yeah, it's yes, there.
It's subtle, but it is there. You'll start to pick it up the more you use it. And they at Retrobit were able to take that basic premise of let's make a rumble controller and turn it into an actual physical product, which is amazing.
Really quick,
you're mentioning the Hyperkin.
Oh.
Yeah, well, okay, I'll I'm trying to juggle all the questions over here and questions over there.
Are you? I'm avoiding the questions because it gets me real dizzy to try and look back and forth.
Oh yeah, I'm trying to pick questions that's relevant to what's saying, but I do have a super chat I should jump ahead and get to.
Yeah,
sure.
From Cade the Squirrel, thank you so much. Saying, question for Randy here: was there ever any consideration to use donor Super FX 2 chips? I was wondering if I could take this ROM, burn it to a rewritable chip, and install a faster crystal oscillator and Super FX2 donor cartridge and get a similar experience.
Sort of. We had looked at sourcing FX chips, Super FX chips, early on. We had looked at FPGA. I've got FX Pack Pro. And it's using an FPGA. We looked at ASICs. We looked at a whole bunch of different solutions and eventually ended up with the Raspberry Pi. The Raspberry Pi is a dual-core ARM chip. It's not actually, I should clarify, we're using the RP2350B, which isn't the whole Raspberry Pi computer. It's just the microprocessor portion. Yeah, it's not like
some people were kind of like, oh, they're just running it on this computer.
Computer.
They're cheating.
No,
but that's not the case. You're using it rather differently.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see it. The Raspberry Pi is right there. And all of this other stuff is all required to make it work. It's not there's memory chips on there, and there's RAM chips on there, and there's level translator chips and a whole bunch of other stuff. And
so it's considerably different in architecture and stuff from an actual Super FX2 chip.
Yes, the process, you can't just take a board and switch the chip on it. There's no real oscillator per se, like there is. I saw a German who did an experiment where he took the Super FX2 and overclocked it to, I want to say, maybe 66 megahertz, and Doom ran really nicely and smooth, and it was quite impressive. But you can't really take this and make it a donor into something else, or vice versa. You can't really take a Super FX2 board and take out the Doom ROM and put in this ROM for a couple of reasons. One, the Super FX that's on this it's emulated. Basically, what happens is I build my program in the Amiga using WinUAE, and I've got an assembler and a linker and a tool chain that takes the source code, the standard, like here's the source code, the stuff that I like I published on GitHub. It's the same source code. I mean, it's not the same source code, but it is source code, and it processes it and generates an executable binary, and that is a standard SFC .SFC ROM binary, which is then processed by a tool chain that sort of takes it apart and processes the Super FX code and data, and it does a static recompilation and generates C code for it.
Wow.
And that C code is then combined with other bits of firmware C code and compiled by the Raspberry Pi SDK to form an ARM executable. I know, it's like, and then.
This almost sounds like Switch 1. Is it almost like how Switch 1 backwards compatibility works on Switch 2, where it's like translating it in real time, but still able to
we do the translation ahead of time.
Okay.
Yeah, we do the translation ahead of time. It's a static recompilation, but it is a complete program, and then that runs on the ARM. But as far as the rest of the code goes, like all the code that's running on the 65/816 on the Super Nintendo, doesn't really know that it's talking to an ARM chip pretending that it's a Super FX chip.
Wow.
So it's got registers, it has to write it to memory in certain ways, it reads from memory in certain ways. As far as it's concerned, it's a variant of the Super FX, but it doesn't know that it's running technically the Super FX side on an ARM chip.
Wow. So it's fundamentally, even though it is a Raspberry Pi and there is no actual Super FX chip, it is running Super FX code. I mean, this is built upon your previous work back in the day. It's not a new port. It's a remaster of that port, right?
That is exactly correct. It's a remaster of all of the code. I would say maybe 70% is the same. There's a whole bunch of new stuff, so that number might be a little bit high, a little bit low. But yes, it runs. I can tell the system. I've got custom firmware for the FX Pack Pro.
Mm-hmm.
That we demoed the game running at QuakeCon on.
Oh.
Now, it's not as fast because we've got our own dedicated hardware now, but it's running the same FX assembled code that gets sent into the pre-processing tool. It literally spits out a .sfc that's a 4 megabyte binary.
Oh, that's cool.
I remember, like you mentioned now. So prior to, because this board is custom made for the game alongside Bitmap Bureau, and when we were testing the game was tested by a good friend of mine, Tom. Was an incredible tester, but Randy really put him through his paces because the original was run on a Super FX Pack Pro, right? And
yes.
It didn't have the additional hardware, and it ran better than the original Super Nintendo version. But you were explaining to me, like you were explaining to the audience now, and just to note, I love hearing Randy explain things because he makes it understandable.
Mm-hmm.
And you were explaining to me why this was going to run better on the custom hardware we're getting. But Tom was sitting there playing Nightmare with like respawnable enemies and stuff at, it was going down to like 2 to 3 frames per second. And he was just like ripping his hair out and just like, this is what you're re-releasing? I was like, trust in Randy, Tom. Just trust in Randy. And when we got the boards, I personally also could not believe how good it is. Because if you play that same mode now, the Nightmare mode, it runs fine. Like, it runs perfectly fine. It doesn't really dip that much at all. So, you knew exactly what you were doing.
Yep.
I mean, you'd probably been thinking about it for years, like working it out in your head, like if you were able to do this. Or did you, once you were given the freedom to do it, is that when you kind of figured everything out? Or had you just been, kind of thinking about it, like how you would do it for years?
I had been thinking about things that I would change for years.
Mm-hmm.
And that's partially why things came together more quickly. When Audi said Limited Run is interested in you doing an updated version of Doom, I was like, for the Super Nintendo? He said, yes, for the Super Nintendo. I was like, oh, cool. It turns out that releasing the code on GitHub, I want to say it was 2020, I think, is when I released the code on GitHub.
It was 2020, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that was by far one of the best things that I've done because it allowed people to see, here's a full game. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, I didn't have the graphics data because that's copyrighted. I don't own that. But I released everything that I could, and it sort of said, here's a complete game, all the code, all the logic for a popular game for the Super Effects that nobody has ever seen. This, you've heard of this chip, but nobody had actually seen a game written for it. And so people were poking around it and thinking, oh, well, maybe you could try and optimize it by doing this, or you could optimize it by doing that. And so there was a good community effort that arose based on the code to come up with some really neat tricks. One of them was it's really, really complicated mode where you sort of use mosaic and HDMAs and to try and do the pixel doubling in hardware without having the software actually write out multiple pixels. So I had been doing experimenting and giving it a lot of thought, but by the time Audi said Limited Run is interested, I had a fairly good idea of what I wanted to accomplish. I think things came together for a proof of concept fairly quickly.
Pretty quick, yeah. I mean, the way this all came about was that you and I became friends because I interviewed you for DF, and we got along during that, like afterwards. And when I joined Limited Run, like much like right now, today, now that you work with me, I always just like to come up with these ideas of like making crazy stuff that seems impossible possible, and just kind of, and I don't like going for low-hanging fruit or anything like that, but I like to think kind of outside the box and like, well, this would be cool, and no one else but me or you or the combination of us would ever do this, which kind of is a recurring thing in the games that I put out that I'm involved with. So, yeah, I mean, when the idea came to me that like, because you have been talking about it just kind of privately, that like, this could be made better in some way, like probably up the frame rate a little bit. You could include, I remember the big thing you mentioned, which is kind of funny now looking at this version, that was kind of the catalyst, at least from my perspective, was circle strafing. That was kind of the thing that always came up, like, oh, we could make a circle strafe and re-release it. And like, oh man, circle strafing? People will buy that.
That's enough.
So I'm like, that's enough. And so I remember that was kind of where I started plotting this out in my head a little bit when pitching it, was like, well, it can circle strafe. And then when we talked about this a little bit offline, but like, I kind of brought up the idea that, I could probably pitch this product if you're interested. And you were like, yeah, absolutely. Like, it'd be cool if we could do this. And then I brought it up to the company that like, hey, I think we could do, like, we keep doing these Doom things. This would be kind of unexpected, but I think people would think this is cool. I was like, I was given the go-ahead pretty quickly, but then a couple days later, I was like, hold on. This guy, it's the guy who made the original, right? It's like, yeah. Like, he also made Bleemcast, didn't he? He's like, yes. Like, yeah, we're gonna do this. Like, we'll do whatever he wants. Which also ended up with us working together in our day jobs. So it was wonderful.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
Sorry.
There was a super chat from Striker Dark saying, I use a Super NT to play SNES cards. Is it safe for me to order this, or do I run the risk of the game not working on my console once it comes out? I haven't tried it on Super NT yet myself.
I will say that it is currently incompatible with the Super NT, but we are working with Kevtris. He has been very gracious, very helpful. It will be corrected. It's on our side. I just got an email today, Audi. It turns out that it is us. A little tiny tweak, and everything will be great on the Super NT. So yes, you're safe.
So basically, just to answer the question, yes, it will be compatible on the Super NT when customers get it.
Yes.
So, yeah.
But you might hear from people who have the prototype cartridge that it's not working.
So it actually does. You can make it work with that too, but if someone wants to do it, I'll explain to them in private. But they have to do. It does run. It is compatible even now on the prototype cards, just not as straightforward as it should be. Mm-hmm. So when consumers get it, it will just be compatible out of the box.
Yeah. Yes. But if you do happen to have a prototype, then contact Audi and he'll tell you what to do. It's embarrassing. I don't like bugs. It's a little embarrassing, but yes, this one slipped through.
It wasn't a big one though. I mean, it was totally, But I mean, I was it's kind of random, but there's a surefire way to make it work on the prototype boards. But like when I got the first prototype board, it worked totally fine. So there was a lot of confusion because like the reasons for it not working and working is kind of, it's a minor thing, but it's like it will happen. So I was like, I'm playing it on my NT right now. It's like great, and then some other people were like, it's not working for me, not great. So, but we figured it out. Then Kevtris also got involved. So thanks to MLiG for their patience.
That's definitely a dream team up is Randy and Kevtris.
That's what I said too. I was like, oh god, what have we unleashed on this world right now?
There was a question earlier asking, like, could you use the same method to, in theory, do like a new version of like SA1 or some other like Super Nintendo expansion hardware using a Raspberry Pi?
Yes. The hardware team of Matt and Gavin at Bitmap did a fantastic job. Like I said, the Super Nintendo side that's running, which is pieces of the game logic, player movement, I/O, DMA, transfers, synchronization, timing, all the same stuff that was done in the original is still being done in this one, and it doesn't know that it's talking to a chip that's masquerading as a Super FX. It just doesn't know. As far as it's concerned, it's a chip. It's responding the way a Super FX should respond.
It's getting catfished.
It is. And it works. It works really well.
It's faster though. Like, is that just because the higher spec of the Raspberry Pi itself, or?
There's a couple of reasons. The whole game is faster because I optimized the entire engine. I went over everything. If you take a look at the original version of the Doom source that was released, and yes, at some point we will release this stuff too, but if you take a look at the original version, you'll see that I had a built-in profiler, so I could profile how the execution was running. So I did profiling and optimized and hand-tweaked the entire engine, and then we added in all of the enhancements that were made possible by the Raspberry Pi. Things like the Super FX original does this is going to be a little complicated, a chunky to planar pixel conversion. Basically, it's how you store graphics in memory. And chunky means you're storing all the bits of a particular pixel together in one chunk. Planar means you're taking all the bits and you're storing them in separate planes, and you have to reassemble them in order to get a pixel out. And the PPU that's on the Super Nintendo is a planar PPU. That's just how it works. But the Super FX allows you to treat a block of memory as if it were chunky, where you can just say plot color 6, plot color 12, whatever. And so one of the things that the ARM code does is it does this chunky to planar conversion, but it does it in a very efficient fashion. So we get a little bit of speed up there. We get speed up because if you do the math, 21 megahertz times 7 equals the 150, roughly, megahertz that the Raspberry Pi is running at. So we basically have 7 clocks in order to do the equivalent of a single instruction. Now, when you're emulating, 7 clocks isn't a lot, but for some things, 7 clocks is more than enough, and there's clocks left over. So it's not an exact one-to-one clock for clock emulation. So we can take all of those combined savings. Like if you're adding 2 numbers, that could be done in 1 clock. 150 megahertz clock, as opposed to 21 megahertz clock. So you've got 6 more clocks left over to do other stuff in. And so it just sort of combines cumulatively. Right. And we're running up against the hardware limitation that the game transfers 1/3 of the display every VBlank. And so the engine's design maxes out at 20 frames per second. That's just a limitation of the design of the engine in order to use 256 color mode and that particular dimensions. I turn VBlank on early at the bottom of the screen so I can get extra time to do transfers, and it requires 3 VBlanks in order to transfer an entire frame. So that's why the game now runs at 20 frames per second.
And wow, I feel like the frame rate, it does not feel, it feels smoother than 20 FPS. Just to me, you know, I feel like, because maybe it's just like the speed at which it moves, but it definitely feels smoother than 20 FPS.
It feels smoother because it's responding more promptly. When the game was running, the game used to run with an average of 10 frames per second. So it might have dropped down to 6 or 8. It might hit 12. But 10 was the average, and now it's pretty much consistently hitting 20 frames a second.
Right. I mean, it makes sense when you explain it, you know, as, you know, you've got all, it sounds like you have actually a fair bit of overhead.
There's a lot
of hardware. But it's, the engine itself is the limiting factor, but it has to be that way because of the Super Nintendo's modes.
Yes, because the Super Nintendo limits you to accessing VRAM for updating graphics only during blanking. So you can only access it during vertical blank or horizontal blanking. And so that's the other reason that the thing is letterboxed. So that starting from the very bottom of the status bar all the way to the very top of the display, I get all of that extra space for vertical blanking. And so I can transfer a larger amount of data than I would normally get if it was a larger display area.
Joe from GameSack was asking a while back, he was using his favorite term, asking how much mega power it has. In other words, how big is the file size for this version? How big was it for the original version?
This one is twice the size of the original. The original one was 2 megabytes or 16 megabits in Nintendo terms. This one is 4 megabytes or 32 megabits in Nintendo terms.
Wow.
Yeah. It's,
now, is that largely because of additional content or code or?
Yeah. It's the way, in order to bring things up quickly, I made a conscious choice to limit the Super FX memory to 3 megabytes. That allowed me to make very, very surgical changes to the open source FX Pack Pro firmware, so that I could expand the Super FX memory map from 2, which was its maximum, to 3. And then that was packed with all of the level data, graphics, anything that the Super FX needs to access has to fit within 3 megs. The extra meg is for sound, music, videos, code, all of the extra stuff that fits in there. So the total is 4 megabytes, but it's really sort of partitioned into a 3 and 1.
Were you able to use any of your old development environment for this, or did you use something completely new?
Nope, I used an updated version of the tools. I released the binaries, and I'll do the same thing again, for the development system that runs on the Amiga. So I actually use WinUAE on my PC, and I literally use my assembler and my linker and my graphics conversion tools that are all running on an emulated Amiga, and that generates the binary output, which is, as I said, it's an SFC, and then I use Messen for debugging, and I modified my tools so that they can output the label format, the source level debug information that Messen uses, and so Messen is an amazing piece of software. And so I can use it to literally single step and source level debug the entire game.
Wow.
So yeah, I use the same tools, but I also use new tools.
Right. It's always seemed really interesting to me that is, iconic of a system as the Super Nintendo is. It doesn't have anywhere near the homebrew scene that stuff like NES, Genesis, Game Boy, Dreamcast, and other systems like that have. Like, do you? I mean, I assume it's lack of easy to use tools, but like I don't know. Like, what do you see? What reason do you see that there seems to be not that much homebrew development? Like, there are like the NES ports, which will hopefully that will actually be an interesting way to get like Rumble working in NES games. Actually,
Infidelity is working
but outside
on
of that. Yeah, but outside of that, there's just like not a lot of prominent homebrew on Super Nintendo, like very often. I don't know why that is.
I think making a game, there are some tremendous tools out there, like I said, like Mason for debugging and for tinkering and examination, but there are very few complete examples of here's a whole game. Like Doom's code is out there, and it's like here's a whole game, here's all the 816 stuff, and here's the Super FX stuff, and here's how it all fits together, and here's an actual complete example program. The Super Nintendo is historically a more difficult system to work with. You need graphics conversion tools and sound conversion tools, and it's a separate sound processor, and it's similar to a lot of other systems that are out there. But I just don't think that there's as many examples of stuff that people can just straight away take and use.
There's a pretty big difference in terms of documentation tool sets for like the Mega Drive and the Super Nintendo. And I think Super Nintendo will probably keep growing, but certainly the scene for Super Nintendo homebrew is not anywhere near what the Mega Drive currently has. There's no like good like SDKs for game development and such built by the community for it. So
I mean, who knows?
I've talked to a bit now about that.
This could inspire some people.
Sure, yeah. I mean, there are homebrew. There is more homebrew now for Super Nintendo a few years ago because they exploded on the Mega Drive, and I mean the Commodore and the Amiga never died, and they've been getting homebrew consistently for years now. So, but I think the Super Nintendo probably will have like a homebrew renaissance, maybe with the Rumble and such.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a little bit more inspiration to kind of push a few more limits there.
Yeah.
But I also don't think it's as fun to work with as the Mega Drive is. Just from a technical standpoint, I think the limitation that challenges is, it breeds a lot of creativity, but I think the Super Nintendo, just from some experience, kind of it's a little bit more finicky and kind of annoying to work with than the Mega Drive.
Yeah. It takes a lot of
like CPU limitations compared to Mega Drive.
Yeah. What are some of the limitations that you ran into, like even this with the extra hardware, like you can still now overcome? Because I know, like in the thing that was sent to us, it said like, oh, you still won't be able to see like enemies' backs, like they're always facing towards you.
Yes. The biggest limitation is the segmented memory. One of the biggest limitations is the segmented memory. As I mentioned, the Super FX has 3 megabytes allocated to it, and 1 megabyte for the 65/816 Super NES side exclusively. But if we get the chance to do another derivative title in the future, I will expand that memory map to probably 16 megabytes. It's the reason that you can't get the enemies facing you in different directions. It's the same reason that in this version, there's probably enough horsepower for floors and ceilings, but there's no space. Each of the floor and ceiling textures is a 64 by 64 pixel non-compressed texture, whereas the walls and the objects are all stored as run-length encoded vertical strips. So there's no real way to fit in the current cartridge configuration extra graphics that the Super FX needs to be able to access.
So that's not even like a limitation of the storage space or creating the assets. That's actually like just a memory limitation.
Yeah, the memory map. I chose 3 megabytes because it was, like I said, I made 2 or 3 surgical changes because I'm not an FPGA expert. So I learned just enough so that I could go in and I could tweak the I want to call it Verilog, which is the programming language that the hardware uses, and I could expand the memory from 2 megs to 3 megs. But in order to go to the next increase, it would be a lot more complex. But it's certainly something that could be done.
We actually had back in December, we actually had 3 former people from Argonaut on our stream, including Jez, the founder. So he had a lot of stories to tell about, designing, this early 3D hardware. They designed the Super FX and taught Nintendo how to make 3D games.
Yes.
I know you've told the story so many times before, but you haven't said on the stream yet. Like, just kind of tell the story for the people here about how you reverse engineered and created like a development environment for Super FX and how that ultimately led to Doom on Super Nintendo.
Absolutely. We collectively, there were a number of us developers. I was working at Sculptured Software at the time, and we were sent to a Nintendo developer conference. And there were developers from all over the country, I think all over the world, and we all met in Redmond, Washington. And we were ushered into a big room with seats arranged like an audience. And we sat down, and a screen came down, and they dimmed the lights, and they showed us the opening intro sequence from Star Fox. Nobody had ever seen anything like this, where with the Star Fox and I think his name is Flippy, and they're all talking, and it's all 3D, and then he flies the R-Wing out of the base as it launches. They brought the house lights up, and everybody just stood up and started clapping and gave it a standing ovation. Because we had never seen anything like this, and it was running on a Super Nintendo. Well, they gave us this booklet. It was about 40 pages, I think, and it basically described the Super FX in high-level terms. It's got this many registers, and it can do these kinds of math operations, and it's got this chunky to planar hardware conversion logic, and you can have ROM, and you can have special RAM, and there's a frame buffer, and all these kinds of things, but it was light on the details. I was working back in San Diego. I was working with a guy, his name was John Morgan, excellent programmer, really good with the 3D math, and Sculpture decided that what they wanted to do was a 3D game. And John was tapped to do the 3D game, and they wanted to do it for the Super Nintendo, and they wanted to do it with the Super FX chip. The problem was that there's no technical description of what the Super FX chip does as far as low level how it operates, no instruction set, no opcode map, no development hardware, no assembler or linker or C compiler. There was nothing. Nintendo just basically said, here's this new chip and you're going to be able to use it in your games, and good luck. And that was pretty much it. So I thought about this because I had written a development system for the Amiga that I used to create Commodore 64 stuff, Nintendo 8-bit stuff. I could do Apple II GS on it, basically 6502 and 65816 platforms. And I said, let me think about this for a little bit, but I think I can come up with a way for us to actually develop on the Super FX chip. And what basically happened was we sort of got a board. We went out to retail stores and we bought Star Fox because it had the Super FX chip on it. And if you look, there's this one happens to be a flash ROM chip. What we basically did is I said, we know there's a program that's in that chip. Let's desolder it and instead put RAM there and a tiny little boot program. The reason we needed the boot program, called a monitor program, is so that when you turn on the Super Nintendo, the first thing it does is it fetches from memory and starts executing code at a very well-known address. And we wanted that very well-known address to be completely controlled by our system. And so this monitor program sits there. It's an 8K EEPROM. The breadboard was about, I would say about this tall. About a foot. And about this wide. And it just had tons and tons and tons of RAM chips on it. And at the very bottom was glued with like epoxy a Star Fox cartridge hacked apart where the ROM chip was to interface to all of these RAM chips. And this big thing plugged into the Super... You have to take the lid off the Super Nintendo and everything. And plugged into the Super Nintendo. And I designed a two-wire serial interface protocol. So you plugged in to the joystick ports this special cable that I made that had these wires on this. The same one of them is the same wire that I use for the Rumble now, but instead it connected to the Amiga, and so the Amiga could communicate through these two wires through the joystick ports to the monitor program. And what this basically allowed us to do was to upload a program into this big breadboard RAM where the Star Fox ROM used to be, and single step and execute the program. So we were able to effectively assemble, link, source level debug, single stepping Super FX code, because Nintendo not only didn't provide us with any of the basic information, they also didn't provide us with a development system. Right. So we had to sort of roll our own. And that's what sort of came of Star Fox.
Do you know if, like, other developers outside... I mean, because I can't even think off the top of my head of what other third-party Super FX games there are. Like, are there?
Well, there's Dirt Track FX.
Well, right, but
that's what this one was for.
That's what Randy was working on, or that was the start of that game. So, like, other than that and Doom, did any other third parties make Super FX games?
There was, and I forget who makes it. Winter Gold
Right.
Yeah, Winter Gold.
Audi had some involvement with that company, I believe.
Oh yeah.
I have it right here, Randy.
Wow.
So, did they make Vortex?
Gold.
Nice.
Or is that Acclaim? Is Acclaim Vortex?
Vortex was.
I mean, I don't remember.
I thought Vortex was Argonaut.
Yeah, it's Argonaut.
Yeah, it might be. Yeah, that would make sense.
Okay.
It's Argonaut, and they try to get the.
Yeah, there were 2 or 3 companies out there that had the ability to make super effects titles.
It was like Acclaim, right?
Yeah,
well, Winter Gold
was the publisher.
Winter Gold was a. The reason why I have this, other than being a freak, is that this is by Funcom. It's actually published by Nintendo and supported by Nintendo, but it was by Funcom, which was my first job in the industry. I didn't work on this, but I was an intern at Funcom 2000. It was my first job in the actual industry, if you can call an internship a job.
You can.
And I told the story. Yeah, and I told the story before, but my first day there, I went there, and I came in the doors on the day that they had signed the Conan deal. It was secret. I had to sign lots of papers before I even walked in the front door, because it was like, hey, there's something going on, and I was there with a friend of mine that was also interning, and it was like, I think they just cobbled something together, printed it out, like, I think you should sign this and give it to your parents, and I signed it. I have it here somewhere, and it's a very badly written NDA. But I came in, and everyone was drunk, completely smashed because they'd been up drinking all night, celebrating that this fax from the US had come over to sign the Conan deal. So it was a guy whose name was Didrik, was assigned to show me around the office that day. And he was also very hungover, but a very nice gentleman. Kind of showed me around, and I was like, here's our audio studio, here's our graphics department, here's this, here's that, all these different departments. And I was walking around, and I saw at the corner of my eye, I saw a kind of closet. It was literally just kind of like a janitor's closet with, in the ceiling was a bulb with a string on it. It was that kind of like stereotypical closet. And the lights weren't on, but I saw glistening, like in the IKEA kind of glass cabinet, saw glistening like a Sega CD logo, Super Nintendo box. I was just like, what's in there? And Didrik was like, oh, that's old stuff. Like, it's not interesting. I was like, I want to see this. So I walked over, pulled the string, much like Bela Lugosi, and there was just this big cabinet of Funcom's porting stuff. Like, they had ported SNK games to Sega CD, and they had made Winter Gold. And I was like, this is awesome. And Didrik was like, really? It's just old stuff. Like, no one cares about this. And like, really? Because I don't care about any of the stuff you have outside. I only care about this. And that did not go over as well as you'd think. And he was just kind of like, well, if you don't care, I guess you can go home. And I was like, can I bring this with me? So somehow I retained my internship and a job in the industry for all these years. But I had to pick this up because I saw this and I was like, Winter Gold? Like, what's that? And I do have a strange love for Winter Olympic Games. I don't think I've talked about that too much anywhere. But I do actually buy winter. I don't like winter sports. I don't go skiing. But I like video games based on Winter Olympics. So I picked them up. This one is crazy though. You've seen it before, Randy, right?
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. It's a very neat game.
It's like an Amiga demo. It has like demo scene graphic. The guy who made it was like a demo scene guy.
Yeah.
So it literally has like Amiga demo scene things in it.
It almost looks like I don't. It almost looks like FMV, but I don't think it's FMV. Like, it's got like these like polygon models that look like they're like motion captured or just very well animated.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's all
the
like
Amiga silhouette kind of thing.
Yeah, and even the stages. So it's often reported that the stages are like videos, I think, and or how this works, but like it's basically small bursts of graphics that repeats and creates the sequence to create these long sprawling stages. It's really interesting. Probably a good video for DF at some point. I forget if we did it. But yeah, I have Winter Gold in box. That was a tangent.
Yeah, I mean, considering all the loops you had to jump through to, reverse engineer Star Fox and all that, you can see why, it was only like your company and, the Winter Gold people, like even working with the Super FX outside Nintendo and Argonaut.
Yeah, well, at the end of Doom, we did receive from Nintendo the official Intelligent Systems Super NES Ice SE. It's like the size of it's about the size of a small refrigerator, and it's got these two SCSI connectors on the back, and it was the only way to develop because Super FX 2, there was no games available yet. Otherwise, we would have done the same thing. Let's get a couple of Super FX 2 games, hack apart the cartridges, make a breadboard, just like we did with Star Fox. But there weren't any at the time, and Doom was going to be running on the Super FX 2. So Nintendo at that time did have hardware that they sent us and loaned us.
Yeah, Nintendo was pretty excited. Like I've seen this for years now. We talked about this when we became friends too. It was like that Nintendo was worried or kind of not too ecstatic about Doom coming to the Super Nintendo, but you kind of told me that like no, they were very excited and were very supportive of you.
Yeah.
Bringing this out.
Yeah, Nintendo was very, very happy that Doom was coming out for Super Nintendo. Because it wasn't coming out for the Sega Genesis, and that was a leg up that they had.
And your version is like the only one of the console ports that had all the geometry, basically. So
yeah, the that was mostly out of necessity. I wrote a tool called Rip Doom, and it's part of the GitHub. And you basically give it a Doom WAD file, and it rips the pieces out of it and converts it into my level format. But we didn't really have an editor. There was, later on in the development, there was a couple of public domain editing tools that became available, and one of the guys who I worked with, his name was John Coffey, and he knew everything about Doom. Everything. He knew where everything was in every level and all the secrets and all of the, if you go left here, you'll pick up a shell casing and all this other stuff. He just knew it all. And he made some changes to the levels that he felt would improve the gameplay. And we sent those off to id Software saying, hey, we've got some refined levels. And they're like, no. I don't think so. Stick with the levels that you've already got. That's sort of how that came about.
But those tools exist, like you said. They're in the GitHub package, and people could take like existing WADs and do it.
You can. It's kind of a convoluted process, but there's a couple of people. One of them, his name is Wallace. Mm-hmm. He did an amazing job getting Doom that I released to compile and build. The tools that I released are the same tools that I use. Like I said, for this new version of Doom, I updated the tools because, for example, the assembler and the linker had to know that there was a larger memory space. So I made that kind of a change. There were different line def types. Those are the things that when you cross a line or you touch a button or something like that in the game, they do different things. The original Doom didn't have all of those implemented because I only implemented the ones that I needed for the levels that we had. But the exact same tools are the same tools that I use. I use them in my daily work, and they're eventually going to be released on the GitHub.
Randy, there's a comment here I want to read to you so we don't miss it. So there's a man named Brandon Booth who says, many years ago, I was having issues with Bleem when I bought it. Basically, I didn't know anything about computers at the time. I called support and talked to Randy. He was so nice and changed my life.
Oh, that's so kind. Thank
you.
Yeah.
The support team, I am the support team.
Exactly. Bleem was we were a very small company. There was me, there was David Herpelsheimer, there was Will Kemp, there was Scott Carroll, there was our office manager Leon. There was like 8 or 10 of us, and then a whole bunch of testers that were playing games. But yeah, when you called technical support, that's who you got. Usually me.
All these years later, he's talked to here today.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it was probably really helpful, though, to talk to people having these certain issues that you're probably learning a lot about, like the environments, like the different varied environments these were running in. So you could fix it in updates or whatever.
Well, that's exactly it. That's the one nice thing about something like Super Nintendo Doom. The hardware is the same. It's the same hardware. Everybody's got the same hardware. So as long as you write to the spec, everything works.
Yeah.
But on the PC, it's a whole different ball of wax where everybody has, anything sort of goes, and
just like endless troubleshooting to an extent.
Yes, it is endless troubleshooting.
Orange Soda King Games was asking about X-Band support.
X-Band support. It used to support X-Band, but I removed the X-Band support from this version for 2 reasons. One, I've got one of the very few X-Bands left in existence, and most people don't have them. And 2, there were some logic changes that were in the game that I optimized out that were there for the X-Band support. And so the X-Band stuff has all been disabled and removed from this version.
Now, I know that I haven't actually tried it myself, but I know this version supports the mouse. I can't remember if the original version supported the mouse or not.
It did, sort of. And by that I mean you could use the mouse and you could move around and you could fire, but you couldn't. You could change your weapon by, I think it's a slide up and click. It was very complicated, and sadly, none of the menus supported mouse. So as soon as a menu came up, you had to unplug the mouse and plug in the controller, and then click the OK for the menu, and then it was no. So this one properly supports mouse. There's actually 2 modes. There's controller, the 3 modes: controller only, controller plus mouse, or mouse. And with controller plus mouse, the left and right are strafe, up and down is forward and back. The left shoulder button switches your weapon, and the mouse is used to rotate.
Right.
Or you can use the mouse proper. And I've implemented double clicks and right clicks and stuff like that.
That's really fun.
And the menus now properly support it, so you can select things in the menus with the mouse too.
I mean, when it first released, Doom did not support mouse on PC. I don't think. Am I remembering correct here?
I thought it did.
Or I mean,
I'm not a Doom expert.
Well, maybe it did, but I think wasn't like the whole mouse movement thing wasn't really super established. I don't think at the time. I remember hearing a lot of people say that they controlled Doom completely with a keyboard.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just think that was like the general way to do it because we didn't really have precedent for controlling it with
we didn't
with keyboard and mouse.
We didn't know any better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember, you told me, Randy, that like one of the things you wanted with the original Doom Super Nintendo release, you just wanted as many logos on the box as possible.
Yeah, as
So you
many
wanted,
little icons.
Super FX mouse, like you just want every icon on it. You had like the box.
I did. I said, let's load up with the icons, and because the mouse support was partially there, the manual says it doesn't work with a mouse, even though it. I couldn't. I couldn't make the argument that it does support the mouse in its current state, but so I fixed that for this version.
How long?
Like I said, I was hoping for Rumble Mouse. So,
how long was the development time on the original Doom, like for Super NES? Like how much time did you have to make it?
I think it was about a year, roughly. Because Doom started '94 is I think when we saw the Star Fox demo. I know Doom released in September of '95. I think it was about a year. And like I said, it started mostly as a need to test the development tools. I needed something that, some code that I could assemble and link and source level debug and test. And while Dirt Trax FX was in development, I was working on Doom and got it to a point where it's similar to what it looks like today. There was no floors, there was no ceilings, there was no objects, there was no weapon, but there was a status bar, and you could run around. And when I brought it into Sculptured, everyone was just like, "Wow, this is Doom, but it's on a Super Nintendo. Let's make this into a product."
I just love that your way of thinking here was like, well, I need something to test my environment with, so let me just port the impossible game over to Super Nintendo so I can at least test my software.
Yeah, that's
a classic Randy.
And what's funny
is
that Doom is kind of like the essential test game now for like everything.
Sure, no. Yeah, now it is.
Yes.
It's just
get it on Alarmo.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's next. Randy will port Doom to Alarmo.
Mr. Doom in the chat was saying, can you play Doom with the Steel Battalion controller? I think that needs to be your next challenge, Randy.
There you go.
I mean, it wouldn't really be a challenge to get Doom on the original Xbox, but...
No.
Yes.
No, it was on there.
Yeah. I don't think there would be a big market for the Steel Battalion version, though.
Yeah. I mean, somebody could just like hack the PC version, I'm sure, to use it. Since like the Xbox controller is just like a USB controller that's shaped differently.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you said the development of the original was 1 year. So actually this one then took longer. So we've been working on this before, like earlier today, I was looking. I forgot totally that like a year and a half ago I did some graphics conversion and like changes for you on this game. Like way back when in text. So I was like, oh wait, I did all this, but that was like a year and a half ago, and we worked on this for 2 years.
Yeah, it's been the difference is this has been part-time for 2 years.
Yeah, sure.
Whereas with Doom, the 1995 one was like full-time. But yeah, this has been two and a half years working on it as a rough guideline. In my development system, every time I do a build, I bump the version number. So every time I make a change and I test it out, everything has a version number. And the original version of Doom that was released was 5934. So that means I made 5,934 changes. The current build of Doom is 12,952.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, so it's more than double the number of changes. There was a lot of work, like I said, in the optimization across the entire engine.
Mm-hmm.
There was getting all the code so that it ran both in terms of speed, but also so that it worked with the FX3. There was the videos. There was debugging stuff. Some of the stuff that needed to be added, like the rumble, took a little while to debug. I actually used an Xbox controller in Mason. I added rumble support to Mason before we actually had rumble hardware.
Yeah, that's right.
That
was insane.
Was operational.
All this, yeah. I mean, it was definitely a project of discovery in a lot of ways, because we kind of, I mean, you had a lot of the initial ideas, and then I had some ideas, and was just kind of kicking it back and forth. And I remember, like you said, with the Rumble, that was something that was made with Mason. We had like USB controllers, and then also hardware-wise, we were not. We mentioned it earlier in the stream, but like a lot of the testing was initially done with an FX Pack Pro. It's kind of built towards a different sort of target. But we didn't really know what we were going to do for hardware for quite some time. We were not really that sure of how we were going to actually kind of do this, like because you could figure it out on a technical level in code. You were like, oh, we need to figure out how the Super Nintendo is going to do this. And eventually I was like, Bitmap Bureau sent me a cartridge of Xenocrisis, and I was kind of curious how they did some of the things that they do in Xenocrisis. So I hit them up and was like, how did you achieve this? And as they were explaining it to me, I was like, I think I found our solution here. I think I need to connect these people to a certain Mr. Linden. And it was pretty immediate
exactly
from
how
that
it
point.
happened.
Yeah, and it was just like, I mean, obviously they were extremely excited to work on this with you. So
yeah, no, it was great. Like I said, I'm software and firmware, but when it comes to the hardware, not so much. But I could sort of bridge the gap between the software and firmware side and explain this needs to happen like this. And if there was a technical reason that something couldn't be done, then I was able to come up with, okay, well, I can modify the code so instead of doing this, it does this. Is that easier to do in hardware? It was a lot of give and take. But back at QuakeCon, which it's almost a year, when we first showed this off, we were still looking at an FPGA solution.
That was that. So, just to kind of take people behind the scenes a bit on that. So, like I mentioned, we were looking at, it was a project that you and I kind of had to spearhead, because it just dealt with a lot of kind of like new solutions as well as community driven efforts. And one of the things that we looked at first, obviously, was FPGA, but I was doing a lot of the outlining of budgets and stuff, and it's just like, if we were going to go that solution, every cartridge would have been much more expensive, because we were going to have to do, like, everything has to be hand assembled, everything has to, and the chips are not, there was just no way of driving this down. Contacted manufacturers, tried to figure it out, and it was just like, this is not, and I also, just from a technical standpoint, was like, I don't think this is the best solution for a single game. This seems excessive, and we should not be building towards this target. And then we just kind of middled a bit. We were just kind of like, let's see if something kind of comes up, and just keep researching. And then with Bitmap Bureau, I mean, they had a solution and they had their own design, but it wasn't, like Randy explained just now, it wasn't that worked out of the box either. It had to be further customized. and kind of made specifically for this. So, yeah, I mean, when people get the cartridge, and much like you guys have the prototype cartridge, it's very specific and it's very customized. So there's a lot of work that just went into designing that whole thing and making it work as well as it does.
Yeah. It's
you have to be crazy to do this.
Yeah.
So, I mean, with all this stuff in place, I mean, what do you think the possibility of like doing Doom 2 is at some point?
That's an interesting idea, Coury. Sure. Wouldn't that be something?
Oh, okay.
Yes. Yeah, it's the nice thing about the engine is, and especially with something like Doom 2, is that the vast majority of the pain, I want to say, in the hardware design and the hardware development and the software core and the tools and the process and all of that stuff is now done. It's a known set of variables.
Right.
And so if this version of Doom does well, I would hope that there's the possibility of doing other titles using the same engine.
Mm-hmm.
Chex Quest? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like everything that uses the engine, right? Like
exactly.
Like anything that has WADs, basically.
Yeah. Exactly.
Do a physical myhouse.wad for Super Nintendo.
Oh god, yeah. So that's like GZ Doom, right? So
I don't know actually.
Yeah, I don't think I had that same thought when.
Yeah.
Like, do you know this, Randy? Like that game, My House. It's like a modification.
Yeah. MyHouse.wad. Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah. It's incredible.
They use
right?
a lot of tricks of tricks to make it.
How to get out of here? Oh, there it is.
Yeah, they use a lot of tricks to make it work. So that wouldn't directly translate, but something like
engine, like
Sigil or Heretic or Hexen, those kinds of that are much more direct. If there's demand, if
Has Wolfenstein ever been ported to the Doom engine?
Oh,
so Wolfenstein was ported to Super Nintendo. But are you asking if Wolfenstein was?
Yes, I know that, but like what I'm wondering is, could Wolfenstein 3D be brought to this engine, because it would be better than because Wolfenstein was not a Super FX game.
No, it was not. It was not. It could.
Yeah. Sure.
I think it would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
I mean, when you talk to Randy, you could just mention a game. He's gonna make it happen. Like,
yeah. Well,
would Panzer Dragoon Saga run on Super Nintendo? Well, next week it will, because Randy needs to test this new software.
Exactly. Well, that's what happened with Quake on the Game Boy Advance. It was just, it was just one of those. I wanted to push the hardware. Started work on it, and by the time that the engine was functional enough, the Game Boy Advance had already started its decline. I think Doom for the Super Nintendo happened right at the peak, if not just slightly after the peak of the Super Nintendo. So it worked out well, but Quake for the Game Boy Advance just didn't. My timing was just
off. GBA was surprisingly short, actually, given like how big of a deal it was and how impactful it was overall. It was not.
Yeah.
I mean, the DS was supposed to be a third pillar, but in practice, it really wasn't. Like it was. The GBA was a surprisingly short system from launch to DS launch.
Considering how long the Game Boy was around.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I was surprised that Randy didn't work more on the GBA, because considering that it's ARM based, like it seems like you would have pushed that thing pretty far. I mean, you did with Quake, obviously, but like,
Yeah.
but you did do more official stuff on it.
I didn't. I started work on the engine. It was originally on the GBA, and then I ported it to Nokia Symbian phones, and then I ported it to Apple's iPod, and then I ported it to Android and Fire TV. But basically, it was a product looking for a home.
Well, we should mention
never really.
A lot of people don't notice, and we should mention it here because it's been a passion project of mine to kind of bring this back somehow for you, considering just how much you've given me. But like, you actually have your own FPS, original FPS called Cyboid.
Yes.
Which runs on the Quake. Is it Quake engine?
No, it's my own engine. It's
your own engine.
It's my own engine that is that original Game Boy Advance engine that was ported,
okay. Which you
and
used
ported
for...
and ported and ported and ported and ported. It's a 3D first-person shooter called Cyboid. And it runs on. It does Quake 2 level graphics with downloadable monsters and levels and weapons and pickups, and it does 2-player split screen on like the $19.99 Fire TV stick. So it runs on like Amazon devices.
Yeah.
But it's a Quake 2 level engine where I basically I basically take in levels and artwork and graphics and models and stuff like that and process it. It's very similar to the way I did Doom on the Super Nintendo. I've got a bunch of tools that can process Quake and Quake 2 data, and you can get it. It's free. You can get it for Fire TV and Fire TV Stick and Fire tablets, and
that's pretty crazy.
Yeah. So if anyone out there is curious about Randy's original work, Cyboid is. I've been wanting, and I've been trying for a few years now to kind of figure out a way for us to port that to modern systems. One day we'll do it, so that it gets the chance it deserves to shine a bit. So, but you can't. I think it's like if you look on shields and stuff, you can still find it, right? So, and then in fire sticks and whatnot.
Yeah.
Did when you were developing, the original Super Nintendo version, did you have any interaction with, or feedback from, or reactions from any of the people from id Software?
No. I've never met Carmack. I've never met Romero. I did at QuakeCon get to meet a couple people who are at id now, and they're all incredibly nice, very friendly, very supportive, which is amazing. But I back then never met them. The only feedback I got was, 1, we don't want John Coffey's levels, thank you. And 2, you can keep the rotating auto map. Because the original auto map in Doom didn't rotate, and the auto map in the Super Nintendo version did, and they said, yeah, we kind of like that. That you can keep. But the most of the feedback that we got was things like the button configuration. They were very adamant on which buttons did what.
Interesting.
Things like because it's a complete custom engine, a lot of it was reverse engineered. So I would play Doom and see how things felt, see how things were timed. Plus I used the unofficial Doom specs, I think by Matt Fell. And so that's where a lot of my knowledge came from. But things like the monsters not respawning in nightmare mode was just an oversight. I didn't know that the monsters respawned in nightmare mode, so I never programmed it in.
It's back in now, baby.
Exactly. Now they do. But there was a number of things like that where, like the splash damage, the radial damage from rockets is a tweakable number, and the amount of shells that you get and all of those things are all tweakable numbers, and they were just adjusted so that it was as similar to to Doom as possible. And I did the exact same thing with Quake on the Game Boy Advance, just tweaking things.
Yeah.
I did see that there was a.
It's cool to watch Coury play there.
I know.
I've been playing it so far, Corey. Like, how do you like to rumble?
Oh, I mean, it's just one of those things that it just feels totally natural after you know, when you kind of get over the novelty of it. It's like, oh, this is what I'm used to, you know, when you're just like used to feeling it and like in other games.
That's
right?
That's what I was hoping for. I wanted it to feel. Have you had the chainsaw yet?
No.
Oh, you should get the chainsaw at some point. Because
is there any codes to get me? Is there any?
There is a code for a Rumble player so that you can actually try each weapon.
Oh, really?
Just to see how.
Yeah.
I can access that.
If you reset it. On
the
enter code screen.
I'll switch, or I'll do that, and then after that, I can play the Star Fox for a little bit. Okay, hang on one second.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool.
Is Star Fox the only other thing that's working right now
with the Rumble?
Yeah.
No, there's 2 or 3 Star Foxes. There's Star Fox CD, and Sunlit did that, and he did it, like I said, in like 6 hours. And he's like, by the way, I got Rumble working. It's like, wow, impressive. And then he worked with Kando, and they got Star Fox 88151.
88.
Okay.
8151. Rumble player.
Okay. Now, in the Rumble player, pick something. The first 6, that's motor right 1 intensity.
I see. Yeah. Oh, and then you can see what it feels like when it's maximum.
Yeah, 1 is the minimum, 15 is the maximum. And then if you go down to chainsaw idle, push it once.
Yeah, it just keeps on going.
Yeah.
Right.
And now push and hold the button with chainsaw use.
That is cool. It's like brum, 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 brum. like it's tearing through some flesh.
Exactly.
It's like a variable rumble, so it's not just like it's rumbling a lot now. It's like it feels very much like holding a small chainsaw. It doesn't feel like a real chainsaw, but there is kind of like a variable to the whole. The one thing we haven't mentioned, Randy, that we should before we change the game, just so he gets his deserved mention here, is so we brought all the stages back, and some of. So we actually had to arrange the music to make it actually consistent with what was in the original Doom, which had incredible music.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So
the music tracks, basically the way that the levels were chosen for the original version of SNES Doom is I wanted more levels than fewer levels. So if there was one big level, or I could fit 2 smaller levels in the space, I went for the 2 smaller levels. That's generally speaking how I chose which levels were there. And then the music was, I wanted same kind of thing. I wanted as many of the different music tracks as possible. So some of the levels, the music didn't quite match with the level that it originally came from. So we worked with, his name is Dammy Fortune or Hunter Van Brocken, and he did some amazing work. So we brought back the 4 music tracks. If you reset out of there, and I'll give you the code for the music player.
Hang on. Okay.
Code is 5 4, 3, 2, 1.
That's the
Wow.
That's the combination for my luggage.
Exactly. What kind of an idiot has that for the? Exactly. You got the joke there. So these are all the tracks, and there's the 4 new ones, and you could listen to any of them. And so yeah, we brought back all of the levels. We brought back all of the music. We really sort of wanted to push all of the things that we could, within reason. And so that's why it's got a music player, and that's why it's got the Rumble player. It's not just that we wanted Rumble, but we wanted a Rumble player so people could experience all the effects. And the music is really good, and so we wanted a music player as well.
I mean, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, so like the tracks that had to be, formatted for Super Nintendo that weren't previously done, I assume it was using like the same samples that were already in the game, or did you have to create any new sound samples?
It is using the same samples. It's actually sort of a cross between a sound sample and a sound font, where you've got the sample and there's an envelope of attack, decay, sustain, release that goes along with the sample, and there's other things like left and right stereo panning and echo, and so this whole set of parameters is associated with one of 50 or 60 different instruments. So I basically had to reverse engineer my own program because I didn't have the core for the music system in order to figure out how all of the music pieces fit together. And then we took the original Doom MIDIs that are out there, and I wrote it's called a VST. It was based off of I forget the author's name, but he made a plug-in for these music composition tools, like FL Studio or Furnace, and VST 700 is a plug-in that emulates the Nintendo's SPC 700 sound chip. So I wrote a plug-in that could be used with FL Studio and Ableton, which are music composition programs, that try and come to a close approximation of the envelopes that are on the Super Nintendo. So it was a lot of back and forth. Hunter did a lot of work to get there was only 4 tracks, but it was a lot of work to get them in there.
Wow.
It was one of the things I was most nervous about, because like the music in Super Nintendo Doom has like a very specific sound to it, and it's my favorite, my kind of favorite version of that soundtrack. So I was constantly telling you that, like, what are we doing here to make sure that it will be authentic to what's already there. And early on, we had an idea to I forget if we were going to redo the whole soundtrack or not, but we were talking to Super MIDI Pack about maybe
Ree and Hunter.
Yeah, about doing like new music via that system, and just kind of like just to make sure, because one of the things I don't like is, and you're saying, like, if it feels inconsistent, that you can kind of tell, like, well, this is new, like this was inserted later, like is it complete, like it kind of breaks the illusion. So I was like, the additional music needs to be done right, and it took a long time before we kind of found the solution to that.
Yeah, it's the same for pretty much all aspects of the program. A lot of it would be really neat if we could do this. And then it just took a lot of work to, take the steps to get it to happen.
Yeah.
The reason I was curious about the sound was I heard that back in the day, and I don't know like what the process would be like if you wanted to do it, if you wanted to have like new sound samples for Super Nintendo today, but like apparently it was this like super proprietary thing, and you had to like send your recordings to Nintendo and they would send them back to you.
That is how it was originally. The Sculptured Software reverse engineered the sound chip and the SPC 700 and the initial program loader, and wrote their own high-end driver that does all sorts of really fancy things, like in Doom I upload samples on the fly. So while you're running around and you've got your weapons and things are firing at you and whatnot, I am sending samples, instruments and samples up there for it to use. But they're one of the very few companies that made their own sound driver, because Nintendo didn't release the information about how the samples were done. Right. And their initial way of getting you sample data was to send them a DAT tape of the recorded stuff that you wanted, and they sent you back diskettes with the samples on them. The converted PRR.
Was that like something they could do at Nintendo of America, or did they have to go all the way to Japan?
I think Nintendo of America could do it. But I mean, they eventually released the tools and the hardware, but the hardware was very expensive. It was well, like I said, we got to borrow the Super Nintendo Ice SE from Intelligent Systems, and it was this really big box thing that was multiple thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars that we had on loan. They had one for making music, but we never had one because
it just seems like such a hassle for them to have to deal with that for every developer. Like, it just seems like it would be desirable for them to just make it easier for people to do it themselves. But
exactly.
One
of my favorite games, Star Fox.
Joe said it's true in the chat, wanted to know how you spell Randy's first-person shooter game. He wants to check it out.
Cyboid? Oh. It's a Cyboid.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also, you can go to rdrdigital.com, and that's basically all about Cyboid.
There was also, I believe I forgot to mention this one. It was just, there was no comment on Mega X6's super chat, but thank you very much.
So yeah, what Coury's playing now is it's something only he can get to experience right now, but this is the beta, the Star Fox Shindle edition, which is Rumble. Yeah, much like Wave Race Shindle and Mario 64 Shindle. But I was playing this. Randy sent it over to me to try out with the controller. It's insane, right?
Yeah, it's very cool.
Isn't it amazing?
And it's really appropriate that this is like the first existing game. I mean, outside of Doom, it's appropriate that this is the first one to get a ROM hack with it, with Rumble.
Yes.
Yes. Randy, you were saying this is like your favorite game?
It is one of my favorite games. Most of my favorite games are Nintendo's.
Yeah.
Super Mario World, Breath of the Wild, Star Fox, but what Kando and Sunlit did to add Rumble, like I said, it took him about 6 hours, and when you fired the Nova Bomb, it rumbled, and it was like, wow, that's great. And then he said, oh yeah, but I'm going to add it here, and I'm going to add it there, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. And Kando did the same thing, and it adds such a depth to the games. that it's amazing. I'm so glad that Josh was like, make this open source, let people know about it, help them along. Yeah, that
it's really cool. I'm excited to see how it's implemented in other games too. I'm probably the odd one out, but I think this is the best game in the series. I talk about that a lot, about how I like the first one more than...
I think a lot of people do agree with
64 is like, it's great. Like, I love 64, but this has like a simplicity to it that just makes it near perfect.
Yeah. And imagine seeing this for the first time in 1990. It was 1994, I believe, when we saw this on a Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
It just...
Oh, yeah.
It like I said, it got a standing ovation, and it was so well deserved. It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, the first time I saw it was probably when I was in 8th grade. I got a chance to go to the Consumer Electronics Show, this summer one, the one in Chicago, and I'm pretty sure it was there. I don't think it was out yet, but it was 1993. So,
okay,
that's probably the first place I saw it. And you know, I didn't even understand what the possibility of polygons even meant. You know, it's like, oh, I can fly over this building and I can see the top of it. You know, I didn't understand that until like I saw that in action. And
I didn't play Star Fox back in the day, but I played Stunt Race FX. And
yes.
I mean, I played Star Fox like after I'd played Star Fox 64. But yeah, like I played Stunt Race FX and I really liked it, but like as a kid, I had a hard time like really figuring out like, well, why are people saying this is 3D, but they're not saying that Super Mario Kart is 3D? Like, because you're still like moving in the Z axis, right? So like in my head, I'm like, well, this is 3D too, and like functionally it is, but the way that it's getting there is fundamentally different and more limited.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is that you can see the top of things, like depending on your perspective.
Well, that was, like Mario Kart 64. I was like, I was just like, oh my gosh, there's going to be hills.
Yeah.
On the tracks? What? Hills?
Yeah. And the idea of hills with like Mode 7. But I remember like Super Empire Strikes Back was the first one to do like hills. Right? I mean, I feel like that was the first time I saw that.
I was gonna mention, as soon as I mentioned hills, I was gonna mention that because I have a Randy story with Empire Strikes Back, because I did the DF video for Super Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
And in that, I posed the question of like, I'm not sure how they did this, but like, I guess it remains a mystery of like technical marvel. And then as soon as Mr. Linden saw that video, I was like, actually, Audi, this is how they did it. And he just gave me this full rundown on technical of how they did it. And I was like, well, I stand corrected. It's no longer a mystery.
How they did what specifically?
The hills on the snow speed.
So
Empire Strikes Back. The hills on Mode 7.
Oh,
yeah.
So how did they do it?
It's a projection. It's using HDMA and projection. If you take a look at a really good example is from John Morgan, who used to work at Linden Interactive Media. He did Ivan Stewart's Super Off-Road, and it's an into-the-screen racing game, but it's got these hills that come up and bank and go off into the distance, and it's all done with Mode 7. It's really brilliant. And
wow, it's the Baja one, right?
That's the Baja one, yeah.
The Baja Blast game.
Yes. If you look at the screen on the side, if you draw the hills up and down, and you project lines to intersect where the hills are, the distance that you travel affects the compression or expansion ratios for your HDMA on the Super NES. And that's basically how it does it, but you do it fast and fluidly, and it looks like you've got rolling hills, and they're all texture mapped, and it's very impressive.
That's incredible.
It's crazy.
Yeah, when we interviewed Kevtris for the first time, That was the first time I'd ever heard HDMA, and I probably don't fully understand what it is, but like I know that a lot of what it's like changing things like on a per line basis, right? Like you're changing like the register for what the color of the sky is, and that's how you're getting like sky gradients or doing line scrolling effects and things like that, right?
That's exactly what HDMA is. On every scan line, you can transfer a certain very small number of data elements. And so if the data elements correspond to colors, you can get nice smooth gradients. If they correspond to the Mode 7 hardware registers, you can change the compression or expansion ratios on every single scan line. And that's exactly what HDMA is. Yeah, you've got a great understanding of it.
So
I just want to say really quick that this is one of my favorite levels in video game history. This level, the Space Armada, blew me away, and it still remains like one of my favorite levels in any game ever. Just the music and just the way it plays out, like starting out, coming out of Lightspeed. It was just like, I don't know. Playing this as a kid, it made me feel like I was like playing like the Battle of Endor on the Super Nintendo. Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just wanted to say that before.
No, wrapping your head around doing those kinds of effects, like interrupting like per line to create the illusion of hills with Mode 7 sounds like an insane trick.
It is. It's when you see it for the first time and you don't know how it all fits together. It's like when we saw Star Fox for the first time. Mm-hmm. It's like magic.
Yeah.
It's just mind-boggling magic, and it was used in a few different games, but Ivan Stewart's Off-Road Baja was the one that really
You know, when we talked to when we had the guys from Argonaut on the stream, you know, I was asking, you know, I said, you know, I don't know if you guys like know like the extent to which like FPGAs are like kind of like one of the big hot things in the retro gaming scene these days, because they were talking about how, you know, they were like using very early versions of FPGAs, or he used a slightly different term for it because I don't think they were truly field programmable, because he said the early ones they had to like send to, you know, Intel. I don't know if it was Intel, but whoever it was that made the FPGA that they programmed on, you know, they had to like send something to them and then get something back, and you know, but it was, you know, for designing like hardware like the Super FX.
It's the Super FX is a really, really nice architecture. It's really optimized. It's really tight. All the opcodes do useful things. It's very orthogonal, and by that I mean that you've got 2 different kinds or 3 different kinds of operations, and they work forwards and they work backwards, and so that's useful if your registers are in a certain order and you need to do things. Having a nice broad instruction set, even though it's a RISC processor, which means it's got a small number of different types of instructions, it's really, really well done. You don't really see processors being developed, not you know, I mean, you do like GPUs, but you don't see that kind of a processor like the Super FX these days.
Right. I mean, I'm assuming it's much more difficult to like really get access to doing like down to the metal kind of programming for like modern hardware like you could with something like this.
Typically when you're writing code, like the code that runs on the FX3 is an ARM program, and it's right there talking to the metal. It's talking to the GPIOs and the DMA and the interrupts, and it's because it's a microcontroller. The Raspberry Pi RP2350B is a microcontroller, and so there's no operating system, I guess is a good way of putting it. There's no operating system, so everything has to be handled by the program. Same with these chips like the Super FX or Sega's SVP, or the 68,000 or the 6502 in the NES, or the 816 in the Super NES. You have to write all of the code.
Wow.
Yeah.
One thing I never asked you, Randy, like, did you ever have an interest in doing anything for N64 when that was out?
Yes, actually, I thought that Mario 64 was amazing, but it just wasn't to be. I had heard that it was a very, very complex system to program for, and in true Nintendo fashion, the development systems were not as robust, not as full-featured as they really needed to be. So yeah, I never ended up doing N64 stuff.
Yeah, I always wondered what history would it be like if you did N64 or Saturn. Seems like something you would have excelled at.
Yeah, I like, based on my history, I like very, very complicated technical projects.
Right.
I like the challenging ones.
So
I'm a problem solver.
Okay.
I mean, can you share anything about the initial development of Bleem? I feel like we've barely touched on Bleem in this stream, and I don't want to miss the opportunity.
Sure.
Just how did it? Where did the idea come from? And what was
the idea? Literally came from
this level is real fast. I feel like this level's going really fast. Sorry, I don't know if it's
amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, I feel like it's going faster than it does on that. Maybe it's the fast ROM version or whatever, the enhanced speed version. It just feels like it's in fast forward almost.
It looks amazing.
Yeah,
they did a really good job. So Bleem started by one day taking a Ridge Racer disc and noticing that it was the same size as a CD, putting it into my PC, and all the contents were there. I went to a bookstore, an actual physical bookstore, because they had them back then, and bought a MIPS R3000 instruction manual. Nowadays, if you want an instruction manual, you can just download them online, because they're all PDFs and they're, umpteen thousand pages of technical stuff. But you actually had to go and get a MIPS manual. And I started looking at the opcodes from the MIPS manual and the program that was on the disc. And this was before there were things like encryption and decryption. And yes, there was encryption and decryption in general, but not in programs.
Yeah.
Generally speaking.
You could burn Sega CD games or TurboGrafx 16 games if you just put them into anything, right? There's no
that's the thing.
security or anything on it.
That's exactly it. The security wasn't... Jeez. The security was so that you couldn't duplicate the game and play it on a PlayStation. But it wasn't to prevent you from accessing the data that was on the disc on another medium.
Because they didn't expect that you'd be able to do anything with it anyway.
Right. I think that they were very surprised.
And you're challenge accepted when you saw it everything.
Exactly. Challenge accepted, yes. Yeah. And that's basically how it started. It sort of grew out from there. I started to get things little by little, reverse engineering. I used a Daytel Pro Action Replay. And it was a little square box about this big, and it plugged into the parallel port on the back of the PlayStation, and I could write little tiny programs in hex and upload them and test out the hardware. How different things worked, and it was just an awful lot of reverse engineering. It's sort of a recurring theme in my work, but I like to understand how things operate.
Mm-hmm.
And there was just a lot to reverse engineer and figure out. And one of my favorite stories about Bleem is that when the beta version was released, people first of all didn't think it was real.
Yeah.
And then when I said that there's going to be an option to turn off the color for the videos, so the videos would show in black and white, people thought it was a hoax. And they didn't understand that the way the video was encoded is it encoded the color channels separately from the luminance channel. So if you just decode the brightness, you got your grayscale image.
Mm-hmm.
The color got effectively overlaid on top of it. But if you had a slow PC, you could turn off the color to save the speed in decoding, and people thought it was just preposterous. It's like, it's like saying, well, we're going to do, the compression of the alphabet by removing letters. It just it just sounds so dumb, and yet it was actually a thing where you could turn off the color and get the videos in black and white, and on a lower end PC it ran better.
Do you recall what the first game that you got running in the in
Ridge Racer?
Okay, so that was the first one.
Yeah, Ridge Racer, which turns out that it was the very first PlayStation game. It was its product code was SLPS001.
Mm-hmm.
So it was the launch title, and it did something really that took me the longest time to figure out. It has a similar kind of limitation in that you can't talk to VRAM all the time. You have to talk to VRAM in blanking. Vertical blanking, horizontal blanking. And the graphics in Ridge Racer, in Bleem, for a while, weren't quite right. You would come out of a tunnel, and the mountains would be garbled, and they would correct themselves after a little bit, but some weirdness like that. And it turns out that when you go through the tunnel, Ridge Racer loads new graphics while you're in the tunnel.
Oh, okay.
It's like effectively like a loading screen. But because it's playing the game and you're going through the tunnel, you don't really notice that that's what's going on. And my timing in Bleem wasn't quite correct. And you would go through the tunnel, and it wouldn't know that you were in the tunnel, so it wouldn't know to start loading the new graphics. So when you came out the other side of the tunnel, and it was expecting new graphics to be there, they weren't there. So there's all sorts of dozens and dozens of little stories like that about, this game does this, and by nature of reverse engineering, having to go in and really understand what a game does. We've got a guy on the team at Limited Run Games. His name is Kevin. He does this. It's like a magician. He just knows how to get into a game and figure out exactly what it's doing. And I did that for a while with Bleem. And every game is unique. They've all got little quirks and little gotchas and stuff like that.
Yeah, I guess Namco, they always like to be first with Ridge Racer, or even to this day,
they used to,
it's not. It's not the same having like Arcade Archives Ridge Racer come out on Switch 2 at launch, but still, like it is. There's a bit of a tradition there, and like I know that I want to say that I heard that the Ridge Racer 5 opening is like working correctly on emulation now, but it used to.
I believe it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was like a thing. That was like a known thing that like like the opening of Ridge Racer 5 is like super hard to emulate for some reason.
Yeah, I mean that game was giving emulation problems for a long time.
Yeah.
So,
but again, very early for the system. Like they were using like the earliest development kits for that game.
I just remember like with Bleem, because originally Bleem was on a PC, and I never tried the PC version when I was younger. But I sure remember the day in which I played Tekken 3 on my Dreamcast, which I could not believe. And it wasn't. I mean, that was the insane part. I don't think people understand today just how wild this was. But not only could you play that, right? But it was enhanced. Like that in Gran Turismo, was it? And I was just like, how is it on Dreamcast?
Yeah,
on Dreamcast, on a totally different processor, totally different architecture, and it was running it at VGA resolution. Yeah, it was neat. It was one of those.
It was neat, he says.
Yeah,
it was neat. It was one of those things that I did Bleem because I really wanted to bring 3D gaming that was of such high quality, and there were so many of them on the PlayStation. I wanted to bring that to the PC. And the same thing when the Dreamcast came out, my partner at the time, his name was David Herpelsheimer, said, "What do you think about getting Bleem to run on the Dreamcast?" And we got a couple of Dreamcasts and did some investigation. I said, "Let's find out." And sure enough, we did it.
And you were telling me, I know there's some super chats we need to get to, but like you were telling me, Randy, the other day that like there's a certain someone that showed Bleem in order to get something off the ground, which I thought was kind of crazy.
Yes, we were contacted by a guy at Microsoft who told us that they were working on a gaming hardware platform. They needed to do a demo, and could we make a version of Bleem that didn't show the Bleem, like when you booted Bleem it said Bleem, and didn't show Bleem but went straight into the game. And the audience was Bill Gates and Steve Ballmer. And we didn't know that at the time. We just knew that we were making a special version of Bleem for some executives at Microsoft.
Why does that kill? I've never seen that thing before. That attack. I feel like I've never seen that before. Sorry, I didn't. Sorry, I'm just talking about the game. I didn't mean to interrupt though.
That's okay.
Talking out loud. Thinking out loud.
So yeah, that's how Xbox got the go-ahead. There was 2 different teams that were competing to get their target hardware platform off the ground, and one of them came prepared with like a PowerPoint presentation, and it was like, I think it was the WinCE team, and they were going to base it all off WinCE, and the other team came prepared and said, we're going to make this game platform and it's going to be based on a PC and it's going to work like this. And they took Tomb Raider and put Tomb Raider into the PC, and Tomb Raider ran. And it was all under Bleem.
Yeah. Wow. That's nuts.
Without you, we wouldn't have Xbox.
Yeah.
And many years later, you gave back to Microsoft again because you made the tools for the Kinect.
I did.
Oh, really?
I worked on tools. Yeah, I worked on a program called Xbox Studio, and it allowed you to record and play back Kinect data streams. So for debugging, you needed the ability to like single step the video frames, and X Studio was exactly that tool. I was the development lead of a team of very, very good programmers, and we worked on Xbox Studio.
Wow.
Things you learn.
There was a notification that Shadow Mask has been a member for 45 months. Thank you. Saying he's curious if Randy has any YouTube content that we could follow.
Good question. I don't. I've got a YouTube channel, but unfortunately, I have absolutely no content for it.
Yeah.
We really should.
We
really should get together, Randy, and make like some sort of like how-to with you explaining kind of like step by step how you did these things, and I'll edit it up for you.
Cool.
Yeah,
you
like
heard it here. He's gonna edit it up.
Makes me think of like that one guy who did that like Game Hut channel that was similar. Like he did like the Sonic 3D Blast stuff.
Yes, Traveler's Tales.
Yes.
Yeah. I think something like that, Randy. We should definitely get together and like edit examples and kind of show step by step how you do these things, because you have too many stories that need to be shared.
Yeah, it would be neat to see you go through like some of your old tools and stuff that you had.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Randy still has, like he was mentioning earlier, right, when he reverse engineered Star Fox, or Star Wing as it's actually called for us Europeans. He was talking about how he made this cable that's connected to the Amiga and all this, and you still have all that.
I do. I still have the old cable. I still have the schematics for what we called the Romulator.
Yep.
That's a great name.
Yeah, the Romulator. Exactly. That's what we called it, because it was a ROM emulator.
Yeah.
I will eventually scan that and post it online. A lot of the stuff, I was very surprised. I've been very, very fortunate to have been involved in some unique, groundbreaking programs, technologies, products, and when people say, "Oh, you were involved with this," and I've got like the original Laserdisc from Dragon's Lair that I used to do the digitization, and so you made a development system for the Super Nintendo and you hooked it up to Star Fox. Yep, I've got the cable that did that. I've got the cable that I wired together to do flash downloading to the Game Boy Advance when I worked on Game Boy Advance Quake. I've just got a lot of this stuff that is historical, that it would be nice to sort of get out there and show it off.
Yeah.
Shadow Mask also asked if Randy had seen any of our content before, and I will say, I don't know if I've ever actually said this before, but I did have an opportunity to interview Randy about 2 years ago, and it's sitting on our hard drives. It's intended to be part of Analog Frontiers Part 4. When I can get over my paralyzing fear of creating it. Randy will be part of Analog Frontiers Part 4. That is the intent. Many great stories. I mean, Randy, I think, as you all have seen the stream, is just so good at telling stories and explaining things, and has just this great way with people of like, yes, he is like way above you, but he's like, yes, that's exactly right. You have a good understanding of that. He's just such a kind person, I think.
Oh, that's very nice of you to say.
Well, I think like one thing that I noticed about Randy is that like you take great joy in life to see that people further themselves and learn and kind of discover things, either about talent, personality, whatever it is. I've noticed working with you and getting to know you that you just seem to enjoy when people actually kind of embrace something and like become more than they expected of themselves.
Yeah. I like
It's a
to
very
help.
special quality to have.
Thank you. I like to help. I like to teach. I am very cognizant of the fact that, as I said, we stand on the shoulders of giants. So I'm just one of those people that's helping to lift other people up because I myself, I'll leave you with this story. When I had my first program, I wrote my first program at 11. I had my first program published when I was 13. And it was on the Commodore 64, and it was a game called Bubbles, and it was a Centipede clone. And while I was learning about the Commodore 64, we had at our high school Commodore PET computers, our junior high school, pardon me. And there was a Space Invaders game that was written by a guy, his name was Jim Butterfield, who apparently was from Toronto, Canada. So what would any 12 or 13-year-old do but get out the phone book and look up Butterfield, J and give him a call and ask him all manner of questions about programming the Commodore PET and the Commodore 64. And he always took the time. He must have known based on my voice. I don't think my voice had changed at that point. And so he must have known that he was talking to some kid asking him technical questions about how these machines worked. And he was so gracious and so kind. I just feel like it's my responsibility to pay that forward. And so I try to do so as much as I can.
Well, it's appreciated.
Yeah. I thought I thought I'd throw in Dirt Trax FX.
Yeah, why not?
Right back to where it started.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is actually a really interesting and kind of impressive game, though, especially considering knowing how it played. But
it's total 3D.
A lot of merit in this.
It's amazing, and I want to say it's a 512K game. I believe Doom was a 2 meg game. I mean, Doom had. This is a story that I've told many times. When you bought your cartridges from Nintendo back then, you pay for them all.
Sorry, I love that the guy's
That's
name.
Okay.
His name is Hog. You know, if you're gonna be a character, if there's a character named Hog in a game, I will be that character.
Exactly.
And the faces are the faces fully 3D too, or is that just trickery with like tiles?
Nope, they're 3D.
Wow,
it's amazing.
That's pretty.
So you basically bought
character modeling.
It is. You basically bought your cartridges from Nintendo, and they charged you based on the configuration. They still sort of do, how big the cartridges are, how many gigabytes and so on. Back then, it was how many kilobytes were in the cartridge. Did you have RAM? Did you have battery backup? All this kind of stuff. And Dirt Trax FX used a similar cartridge to Star Fox. It was a 512K byte game. Doom used the second most expensive cartridge you could possibly get from Nintendo. The only thing that would make it more expensive is if there was a battery on the cartridge. Like Yoshi's Island has the battery for the save games. That's the most expensive cartridge that Nintendo offered, because they basically got this big chart of you want this kind of ROM and this kind of RAM and this kind of battery and yes and no and whatever else. And the battery would have cost an additional $2.50 for each cartridge. And by the time you ended up getting that at retail, it would have been an additional increase of $10 or $15.
Yeah.
So instead of Doom being whatever it was, $60 or $70, which back then was very expensive, it would have been even more expensive.
Yeah. And you figured,
Wow.
it's gonna sell enough for sure, but it's not worth jacking it up just that a little bit for, when you can just use a password system, I guess.
Right. Well, but Doom didn't have a password system. So,
that's right. That's right. You added the password for the new one here, and
yes.
So you had to play through the whole game in one sitting, huh?
You did. I know. Brutal.
Yeah.
It was brutal.
That's a full afternoon.
And in order to make it so that people could not rent the game at Blockbuster and win the game, you couldn't play episode 2 unless you were on the medium difficulty level, and you couldn't play episode 3 unless you were on the upper 2 difficulty levels.
Ah.
I know.
I guess those were decisions from up
On
above.
high.
Yeah.
Above my pay grade at the time, yes.
Yeah.
Randy's too nice to do that by himself.
Exactly. That's why I added level selection screen and password screen and all that stuff back in. It's like all these things that I wanted to do, but didn't have the opportunity or the chance to do it. So now I was able to get a bunch of it done.
Had any of that password?
I was gonna say, like, your kindness was kind of known actually back in the day too, because for those who dabbled a little bit in Amiga and could look a little bit further into the files, could find a personal message from Mr. Randy Linden back then, just saying kindly, wait before you copy this game because it's on the market right now. So it's just, wait a little bit.
Yes.
Thank you. Like other people had much more. If you found other messages on the Amiga, it was usually not as kind. It was usually name calling and many flowery words. So the Dragon Slayer Amiga message from you was kind of legendary because it was just kindly asking.
Yes.
For people
Well, we
to wait.
knew that it was going to be broken and we knew that it was going to be copied, but there was just so much of everybody. Like I said, there was a large team that was involved. I did the programming, but there was a lot of people, and it's like this new version of Doom. I'm one person, and there's a lot of people that are involved, and it would have been really disappointing if, as soon as it released, it got cracked, and then it was copied, and we couldn't do another game, and it's unfortunate.
Well, you're very good at encryption, though. Like,
it's one of my strengths.
Yes, should be said. So it wasn't easy necessarily if people wanted to copy your software at certain points. You didn't make it easy for them either, but you did ask them kindly to wait if they did. So
I did. Well, it's the polite thing to do. It's the Canadian thing to do.
Sure, you are Canadian.
Try. I know that there was a donation from Ben Brody that you were gonna. I think you were gonna read it. And I interrupted you. I'm sorry about that.
Oh no! You're fine. Ben Brody, this for Audi and Randy, for Randy and Audi, this is the typical Ben Brody super chat question. So, for context, Ben Brody asks if you would take $10 million, but you have to buy a cat, and anytime it licks itself, you also have to start licking yourself, no matter where you are or what you're doing.
Does it have to be in the same spot as the cat is licking?
Well, I mean,
if I just have to lick my arm at any point, that's all I got to do. I would take that $10 million.
Really subtly.
Yeah.
Is that
I'm assuming there's
$10 million that I have to do the cat thing?
Yeah.
I didn't understand.
You don't get the $10 million if you don't accept this challenge.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I'd lick myself for less than $10 million.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I'll do it for 100,000.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not a whore, but
I mean, I don't especially
But
want a cat to begin with, but
I'd take that $10 million and do what I said last week, because no one would ever hear from me again, except for my friends, and like I just do what I wanted to do.
Yeah. You'd have to be checking in with Ben Brody though to make sure.
Yes. Good question.
Yeah.
That's very thought provoking. No, that's good. That's amazing. It's really cool.
The Ben Brody Brain Buster. The weekly Brain Buster. Man, you do a lot of laps in this. Like each level, you got to do like a whole bunch of laps. Yeah.
Well, I guess because the courses are pretty
well make it realistic.
Yeah.
And I think it's actually pretty impressive and surprising that the audience stands are.
I know, it looks cool, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And
you look at this game running out. It's Super FX, but like the other systems, so there's a game on Jaguar called Supercross something, and then the 32X has whatever that cross game that's on there that's terrible, like one of the worst games ever made. You just look at those, and those need to promote themselves with 64 bits or the 32X, and they couldn't even do this. But here you have this game, and this is pretty competent on much lesser hardware.
Yeah.
I also noticed
John Morgan, same guy who did Baja.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to try that. What is it called? I'm gonna play it right now. I'm gonna try the Baja.
You should. It's
Super
Ivan
off-road
Stewart off-road, super off-road.
I don't know if it retains the Ivan Stewart thing.
Okay, look
It might
for
be just
super
super
off.
off-road. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also noticed
super,
I noticed in Dirt Trax
super off-road the Baja.
Yeah.
That's the one.
I noticed in
And
Dirt
I
Trax too, the water and the audience stands had it was static, but they had a texture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice.
Oh, there he is.
That's the one.
So now this is not a Super FX game.
No.
This is not a Super FX game, but watch the 3D pseudo 3D perspective when you play the game.
Is this before or after Super Empire?
They were similar time.
Oh,
Can
wow.
you see?
I think this is after though.
Wow, yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Isn't it amazing?
So this
is
is
a lot more complex than
Mode
what was
7.
in Empire. Empire is just the occasional slope.
Yeah,
But
this
this
is
is
complete hills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I always thought it was impressive, even just games like Rad Racer for the NES, there's the perception of hills, but of course when they do that, it's it's pure line scrolling, no texture or anything.
Yeah, it's
right?
just moving it higher, right?
But
This
this
is textured ground.
yeah. That's
This
pretty
makes
crazy.
me think that Road Rash on Super Nintendo could have, at least a version of Road Rash could
Yeah.
have come to the Super Nintendo and been sort of impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now when you do the line scrolling to kind of create this illusion, is that per? I mean, I guess it would have to be the actual scan line of the TV.
It's per scan line. Yes.
So it is based on your actual perspective, because
Yes.
it's not doing it per line of the the tilted background time.
Correct. It's based on what basically happens is you trace the eye to the
Oh, I almost hit that
out
here.
into the distance, and you calculate what it intercepts, and based on the distance that computes the scaling factors, and then you add in left and right scrolling, and you do that for every single scan line, and you generate an HDMA table. See, it's even got water there. It's pretty cool looking.
Yeah.
I
Insane.
guess
You also
that's
get fined
probably
$3,000 every time you kill somebody.
I guess that's also the reason that you don't have rotation here. Like it doesn't rotate left and right, because it would almost certainly like completely destroy the illusion. I'm not too familiar with Super Empire Strikes Back, but is it the same way where it's just going straight forward?
No, it gives the illusion of like being free roaming, but it basically is moving straight forward. You just got to find the ATs and.
It's not super convincing.
Yeah.
In Super Empire, but like they try.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that was the first game that I remember seeing that done, and just that alone was what made it impressive. It's kind of funny that the Hoth levels in Star Wars games are always like these technical showpieces for a while. They're always trying to do something with them. Like that's just funny that's always the one that they'd go to it.
Yeah, this is super impressive.
Yeah,
it is, and it was running on stock hardware.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It was running on stock hardware. This is I would say 90, 92, around there. Before there was such a thing as a Super FX. There was this, which is amazing. There were some really neat titles for the Super Nintendo, and this is one of them.
I mean, it just makes you miss this era too, where you could be like wowed by something random like this. Like, oh, it doesn't have to be just more realistic, like more stuff on screen. Just seeing something like this is immediately impressive. Just even though it might not play the greatest or whatever, it's just it can coast on like how impressive it is.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, hey, it can still impress me today.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I'll do one more level. It's a little bit after 11 here, so we'll start wrapping it up, but crank some.
Cool. Gotta work early tomorrow.
So Doom is available to pre-order now. I think I saw something that the limited edition is sold out, or currently, or is that what I saw? Yeah. Or but the standard edition.
Yes, I am so thankful. I was really, really happy when that sold out. That was because I'm always, and Audi will say this, when I work on a project, I'm always like second guessing myself. It's like, how is the public going to perceive it? Are they going to like it? Is it going to be well received? Have I done enough? Have I pushed enough? Have I tried to make it the best that I can? And so when I saw that the collector's edition had sold out, it was amazing. I mean, it's great. I was not totally thrilled when I saw that somebody had listed it on eBay.
Of course.
For $350.
Yeah. That's
oh my god.
Yeah.
It's the reality of unfortunately like the like buying literally anything now, like it's like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what you're into, everything is affected by that kind of reality.
But I assume the standard editions are being made to order, though, correct?
Yeah. Yes. So there was 666 of the collector's edition, but the standard edition is open pre-order until August 10th, I think.
Mm-hmm.
August 10th, yes.
Yeah, August 10th. So you can order it. You still have quite a bit of time. Yeah. There's also the Rumble controller. That's also up for order. It has a special Doom design. Mm-hmm. So it was a 2-year labor of love.
Yeah, like I was gonna say, it's like totally like a work of
passion for Randy and I. I mean, Randy. I can tell you that Randy spent many long nights and many early mornings just working on this, and
yes,
I was very happy to see that you got to realize this dream. And
something that had been probably swimming around in the back of your mind for decades, honestly.
Yeah, how could I do this better if I got a second chance?
Yeah.
What would I do differently?
And knowing everything you know now that you didn't know then.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think it keeps a similar look and feel to the original version of SNES Doom, but it enhances and expands and updates virtually everything I could touch.
Yeah.
From the engine to the levels to the music to the rumble to the videos to all of the aspects of it. I really sort of wanted to, if I had the opportunity to go back and do something to do it better, and I'm grateful to have had that opportunity.
Yeah, well, it's awesome. It's very impressive, and it seems that I think people get it.
Right.
They get like why this is cool.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
As we wrap up here, I see. What's that?
You got a super chat right there at the end.
Yep. From Turbo Sean.
Yeah.
Thank you. I like that name too. Looks like I've been missing a banger of a stream. I can't wait to hear y'all talk about this in the VOD. Also, hi Audi.
Yeah, Turbo Sean is a real good guy. So I'm happy to see him pop up here at the very end.
But I think that's gonna do it. Thanks so much, Randy, for hanging out, and Audi for like hanging in there, because it's like you've been up.
Yes.
Been up all damn night like, now.
It's like 6 a.m.
morning here
where you are, isn't it?
It's like 5 a.m. now.
Oh my gosh!
But I kind of forgot time as we went.
Work starts in 4 hours, Audi.
Yeah. I don't know how I'm going to survive tomorrow or today, but we'll make it happen.
Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe you can take a personal day.
No. Too many things to do, and too many Doom boxes to send out. So.
Yes, there's work.
I work all day, all night.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you, Coury, and thank you, Mark. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us. Also, thanks to everybody who donated, and
yes,
thanks for everything. This is a lot of fun and very enlightening. And I think that when we have guests on, I think you never know if the guest will go into like some serious technical detail, because I mean, it's just like sometimes it's hard to read the audience, and I think that our audience like love to hear you talking about like the stuff like in a really detailed level that you usually don't get in this kind of format, I think. So it was
they're
very
way
cool.
into it.
Yeah.
Well, Randy, where can they find you if they want to hear more technical talk?
That's a good question. I'm on Twitter, X, at Randall Linden, all one word. Let's see.
You're on Blue Sky.
Yep.
I think that's probably the best place to find me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I hope everyone has a wonderful week, and we'll see you next week. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you.
Yep.
See you soon.
If I can figure out how to stop the stream.